Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in. And that's right, Season 6, the debut episode, the premiere episode. I'm grateful to even be here. That's for sure. Oh man, do we have so many different things planned for you guys for this whole season. It kind of makes my head spin, trying to wrap my brain around it all. But before we jump into this episode, I'd like to give you guys a few more updates about everything that's going on. Clearly, we're moving in the right direction. We have a second show, the Fellowship and Freedom show that comes out every other Sunday. It's not this Sunday. Look forward to the part 2 to the episode we did with Zach earlier, where we also have the new feature. I'm going to call it IG Live with Friends, or, the mini-cast with friends, however you want to look at it. I don't know. We'll come up with some kind of cool name for it. Also, we have been sustaining crazy website attacks. Website attacks, hacks, all kinds of other stuff. We're going up against AI algorithms all over the place. And the only thing I want to tell you guys in response to this is we are building another backup website. So make sure you're signing up for the newsletter so you can get all the other information and everything else that we're doing, because we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep rising in the face of all this adversity. There's so much going on, guys. But with that being said, let's jump right into the show. Salutations, my friends, and as I said, this episode is combating conformity, the spirit of technology and Techno-Sorcery. That's right, all kinds of strange things are going on in the world, and it seems like, even though we have all these strange things, these massive events happening as fast as they're happening, they're still trying to shut down the capability of us being able to talk about them. And I'll tell you why. It's because there's a wisdom that comes with it, there's an understanding that comes with actually discussing what's going on, what's happening. But they don't want that to happen. And I'll be getting into more and more of that throughout the entirety of this episode. I just think it's crazy that we are still even able to broadcast and to have shows. This is why you guys, as always, see us diversifying the content. So with that being said, let's kind of jump right into things. As I said, I kind of took like a 2-week break, the transition between Season 5 and Season 6, and look at what's going on. Like I said, we had the first website attack in 2018. I don't know if that's something that we should be proud of, but I think it's something that needs to be documented, because as you can tell, more and more of these types of things are going to happen. Censorship, that's become like a common theme. I don't want to say it's become passé, but this is why you see me ask the question of, can creativity combat conformity? That's what we're talking about. If anything, let's look at some of your guys' answers. Schlingo says that it can combat it, but with the modern implementation of technology, it could be argued that conformity has an upper hand we've never seen before. And then I'd say that's a very good way to look at it. And this is a good way to look at the whole debate between, what is assimilation? What happens whenever you make yourself into a Borg, into some kind of cyborg, into some kind of creature, right? That's what I mean by conformity. Can you still gain the information and the wisdom from the robots if they decide to take over? Can we see how people are being shaped, molded, conformed, conditioned, and told how to live, how to act, how to feel, how to think? We can see that happening, right? This is why creativity, this is why actually having conversations about these types of things broaden your horizons. It broadens everybody's horizons. It makes us think more about, like I keep saying, the times that we're in, the tools that we have, the potential of one individual, and why that's so important. It might not seem like it is, but that's the beauty of the human. That's what you hear me talk about all the time. What's going on? What does it mean to be human? Why are they doing these things? Why are they spraying the skies? Why are they poisoning the food? Poisoning the toothpaste? You see, why do they have this on these diets that basically destroys from the inside? Why is our gut a graveyard rather than a garden? And there's nothing wrong with either. I'm just saying, what's going on with the world that we're living in? Is this what we should conform to? And the reason why I wanted to intro, season 6, talking about these types of things, as you've heard me say prior to season 5 ending, and with the mini casts in between, I've talked about how I want to branch out on different topics. I want to have like targeted subjects where we look at different types of things, to where we can really isolate what's happening with ourselves. We can't get so caught up in all this information that we don't understand knowledge and wisdom. That's what you're going to start hearing a lot more over this season, and you're going to start seeing over on the other side of the screen, is what it means to actually actuate this information. That's what we need to start doing. It does us great to know all these things, to have these types of discussions, but as I literally say with the t-shirt we made, go forth, be that change. We are those agents of change. That's why we have to ask the question of, can creativity combat conformity? You already know the answer. Unless you want to conform to a system that only further seeks to disenfranchise you from your power. Unless you willingly want to be a slave. It's a day-by-day vigilance, man. You can't turn it off. You have to be aware, hyper-vigilant, of what they're doing. That's why I tell you guys, stay vigilant. Expose lies, share truth, tell these people things are going on. And that's what I mean by actuating the information. People are stuck inside some kind of trance. They're stuck inside the matrix. Let's be real. It's realer now than ever before, and you can see it every day. And that's why we need to get out there. That's why we need to be the people that are helping them. So yes, you do have this pocket computer. Yes, this thing can help enlighten you, but do you know how it's enslaved you? Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of, how you've been conditioned and brainwashed in certain ways as well. You don't want to try to talk about what's going on in society. That's a part of it. We can try to play the victimology as much as we want, but what good does that really do when everybody's crying? And I talked about this before, back in like 2015, man, about how we're living in a time to where people are unable to articulate what's actually happening to them, and they want to try to find a villain. And what we're actually up against is a spirit that's moving, an energy that's manifesting itself through people. And you probably heard me talk about this with Zach on our Instagram Live with friends. Or the minicast with friends. I don't know. We'll come up with some clever topic for it, or some clever name for it. But you probably heard me talk about that. How there's people that are dialed into this, and I say dialed in because they have a phone. This is what they're learning. This is what they're understanding. They're dialed into this energy that is furthering their disassociation, or their insanity. I mean, look at what's going on. You look at the algorithms that we have to go against as well. They're also feeding us only what we want to see. So we have a lot of different things going on, and I've talked about this as well, how they're trying to legalize insanity with everything that's going on. That's why the social engineering is very real right now on every single front. But it's what comes with it that we have to understand, and why we have to remain vigilant. They're trying to scramble our brains. Again, that's why you have to ask the question, can creativity combat conformity? It's a very multilateral question. It's not meant to have just like one simple answer. You see. So welcome to season 6. Let's start talking about some stuff that actually happened, like in the news. Right? So apparently, to kind of make things a little bit more light from asking all these super deep questions, apparently the University of Manchester said that your sandwich is bad for the environment. That's hilarious. But I see where they're going, and that's the crazy thing. Again, they're having to push the Overton window to make it sound ridiculous so that what comes after makes sense. It has to do with, greenhouse gases, carbon emissions, your carbon footprint, things of this nature, taking care of the environment. What's more important? You or the environment? Condemning human habits. Let's get into this article. It's from Techno-Sorcery News. They reposted it from the University of Manchester. It's on January 25th, 2018. It says, technocrat scientists intend to micromanage every facet of your life, including the type of sandwich you pack in the little Johnny's lunchbox. Yes, this is the true nature of technocracy. Do you take a packed lunch to work or buy a sandwich from the shop? The carbon footprint of your sandwich could be having a major impact on greenhouse gases, according to new research. Researchers at the University of Manchester have carried out the very first study looking at the carbon footprint of sandwiches, both homemade and prepackaged. So I'm going to pause it right there because I kind of thought it was weird that you could even get peanut butter and jelly sandwiches from like the freezer. You know? I don't know if you guys have seen that, but you can definitely get packaged PB&Js. It's weird. I'm like, why don't you have honey or peanut butter or strawberry jam at your house? You could do it yourself. Anyway, they say that they considered the whole life cycle of sandwiches, including the production of ingredients, sandwiches, and their packaging, as well as food waste discarded at home elsewhere in the supply chain. Altogether, the team looked at 40 different sandwich types, recipes, and combinations. They found that the highest carbon footprints in sandwiches with pork, meat, bacon, ham, or sausage, and those containing cheese or prawns. Of the recipes considered, the most carbon-intensive variety is a ready-made, quote, all-day breakfast sandwich, which included eggs, bacon, sausage. The researchers estimate that this type of sandwich generates 1,441 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent, CO2 equivalent. This is the equivalent to CO2 emissions from driving a car for 12 miles. So basically, whenever you're eating a breakfast sandwich, your carbon footprint equivalent would be driving 12 miles. Now, this all kind of sounds crazy, these little equations that they're trying to throw out there to you, right? But this is the technocracy. This is the green agenda. You care about the environment, right? You better not eat that sandwich. You better understand where it came from. and it sounds ridiculous. It really does. But these types of calculations come with this ever-increasing AI society that we find ourselves living in. This is not a joke. I don't know how they have that conversion rate of being able to break down the different types of combinations, but a breakfast sandwich basically equals 12 miles when you're driving. But they have these types of different combinations and these different algorithms and formulas. So it doesn't matter if I think about it. There are people higher up that already have these different types of formulas and deploying these types of things. That's the crazier part. Again, as I said at the start of reading this article, they want to micromanage your entire life. Continuing on, it says that the sandwich with the lowest carbon emission equivalent is a simple, homemade favorite, ham and cheese. The study also found that making your own sandwiches at home could reduce carbon emissions by half compared to ready-made equivalents. According to British Sandwich Association, apparently that's a thing, BSA, more than 11.5 billion sandwiches are consumed each year in the UK alone. Around half of those are made at home, and the other half are bought over the counter in shops and supermarkets and service stations around the country. That means that the UK spends nearly $8 billion a year on the breaded snack at an average of £2 per snack. That's crazy. It really does sound ridiculous. It really does. But the other articles that I have here, where we have California suing Trump over fracking, USA Today admitting that geoengineering is real and happening, kind of explains what's going on. We also have an article later on about how the UN is creating a geospatial data ecosystem, basically the Internet of Everything, that monitors these types of things. We also have New York City apparently suing Big Pharma over their opioid epidemic. These types of things are going on. This is what I mean by micromanage. Some things are good, some things are bad. And you can listen to some of my previous series, and I really do need to update it, is The Building the Matrix, where I talk about this. They're going to condemn what's considered the American lifestyle. Fast cars, good food, hot babes. That's going to go right out the window. They'll say I'm misogynistic for calling a girl a babe whenever, you know, she's really hot, or really beautiful, you know, whatever's politically correct. You know, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to appreciate people. But these types of micromanaged types of things are happening. That's what I mean by weaponizing the environment. That's why it's environmental and political. You see, let's get into this article about how California is suing Trump over their fracking. And clearly, we'll get into this later for sure. The Chinese have just cloned monkeys. And I've actually talked about it before too. That they make people. The Chinese actually do. They're working on clones. They have clones. This is their soft way of telling you these types of things. We'll get into this later, but uh, let's get into this. California suing Trump. Right here. California sues Trump admission over repeal of fracking rule. Now, last year I kind of talked a little bit more about the Dakota Access Pipeline, all of the different things that had to happen with that, the rise and fall of coal, what's going on with that economic, gold mine. I don't know how you would want to look at it. The petrodollar, all kinds of different things are going on with just that along. You know, that's why we call it the socioeconomic reformation. There's so many different things happening with it that I just try to label it that way. But this type of thing, California suing Trump over the repeal of the fracking rule. California is on some other stuff right now, and I think everybody can see that, and that's good and bad. Again, we see these types of things happening, but it's what comes after. And this is from Techno-Sorcery News, not ironically enough, not the one that we were reading from before. There's a few actually out there, but this is put up January 24th. It says, California did it again. On Wednesday, the largest state in the country, one of the largest state in the countries, filed another lawsuit against the Trump administration. This one concerning the repeal of a rule regulating hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, on publicly owned lands under Interior Secretary Ryan Zink. Quote, the risks of fracking to our environment and our health are real, Xavier Becerra said at a news conference on Wednesday on the first anniversary of his becoming California's Attorney General. Separately, a coalition of environmental and tribal groups sued to block the rollback of the fracking rule as well. Quote, President Trump and Interior Secretary Zink did not let the law or the facts get in the way in their zeal to repeal. Anyway, so let me just kind of go over this real quick. You know, these types of things. California suing Trump, the New York City suing Big Pharma. These things to me are more evidence of Agenda 21. What has to happen, you know, to make Trump seem like the bad guy and the good guy? California, you know, as they're going through all the things that they're going through, they make Trump out to seem like the villain. He gives them everything they want. California moves more in accordance with Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. They start recruiting all kinds of different people. People start migrating from there, and that's what I see happening. The same thing in New York. And what's even more strange is that a lot of our audience, they're actually from New York and California, which is pretty strange and ironic at the same time. But what I see happening with that is them basically trying to figure out a way to, like I keep saying, condemn American behavior and supplant it with this green agenda, this New World Order agenda. And I know what it sounds like is crazy. You know, we're talking smack about how they're trying to institute, you know, the green agenda, you know, the green revolution, you know, cutting out coal, implementing Tesla's technology and things like this. But like I said, this is what comes with it. Things like the Internet of Things, things like the geospatial data ecosystem, you know, Davos. That's exactly what's going on right now. Them talking about creating a shared future in a fractured world. What we see happening right now are massive developments. Everybody knows that you know, geoengineering is real, weather modification is real, you know, mind control is real. All of that is very real. But what kind of world does that leave us in? You see. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll close out with some of the geoengineering stuff, and then we'll come back talking about this Tamiflu outbreak of, you know, Florida and their mandatory vaccines, what all these different types of things mean for us, and more. Basically, the epigenetic assault. But this is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom. This is Season 6, the debut. You guys stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon. And we are back. Thank you guys. You know, I get excited because it is a blessing. It really is a blessing to be here. To be able to have this kind of audience, to be able to have these kinds of topics, to talk about these types of things, and to be in your life. You know, and I can't say that enough. I can't say that enough. Thank you for allowing me in your life. Thank you for allowing me your time. And you guys really make the show. That's all I can really say. You guys make the show. It's that we're able to have this breadth of knowledge, this breadth of discussions, this wide variety of topics to have these kinds of discussions that I think, you know, really makes it awesome. You know, we read some of your guys' comments and I get lost. I really do. You know, I have a way that I would like to run the page, and then, you know, clearly you guys have a way that you would like to run the page, and this is why, you know, I want to house more discussions, but in a better way. And with everything going on, we need to figure out a way to not give them so much power. I could be gone tomorrow, and this is why you guys see me constantly implementing different, basically fail-safes, redundancy plans, backup plans. Because what happens if they take down this one? I can notice that I'm being attacked. Anyway, you guys make the show. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's get into this. What did I say? I was going to talk about more of the epigenetic assault. The USA Today talking about how geoengineering, creating clouds, could wreak havoc. And that's very important. Because not only do we basically have mainstream media, it seems like we're all over Techno-Sorcery news today. And this is from yesterday, like 2 days ago. January 23rd, by Doyle Rice. USA Today, creating clouds to stop global warming could wreak havoc. And I definitely agree. I think everybody would. That's the question that we need to start asking. So what does the post-weather modification world look like? What happens whenever we already understand that these people are trying to modify the environment? What happens whenever they're saying, you know what? Yeah, we're going to spray clouds, but you shouldn't eat that sandwich. Yeah, we're going to spray clouds, but we're going to keep, we're going to keep fracking. Yeah, we're going to spray clouds and your crops might be messed up, but don't worry about it. This is what we need to start having the discussions on. Clearly they can modify the weather. They've been able to do it for at least 60 plus years. But what does that look like? What world does that look like? And that's where we're at these days. Let's get into this article. It's from Techno-Sorcery News, up January 23rd. It says just that. USA Today, creating clouds to stop global warming could wreak havoc, it says. Geoengineering has been happening for decades now. But USA Today is just now admitting that possibility by stating it would be more devastating to stop geoengineering than it might be to start it in the first place. And I think everybody's asking the question of what does that really mean? They haven't started it yet, but they are more worried about stopping. Okay, well, of course, they already started the massive geoengineering in the West, so their timeline is just a few years off. A soldier walks toward an abandoned mountain, or an abandoned house at Mount Pinatubo, and it spews ash as high as 12 miles during its eruption on June 19th, 1991. When Pinatubo erupted, it cooled the Earth for about a year because the sulfate particles in the upper atmosphere reflected some sunlight. Several scientists have proposed doing the same artificially to offset global warming. To counteract global warming, humans may someday consider spraying sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere to form clouds and to artificially cool the Earth. Now, before I go in more into this, we already know that they're spraying aluminum, barium, and strontium in the same efforts. They call it stratospheric aerosol injections. Chemtrails, clearly. Let's get real. It's chemtrails. They also have Morgellons, and this is another disease because these are man-made things that they are trying to spray to combat what is natural. If you guys listen to the episode with me and Zach, the minicast with me and Zach, where I talked about how there is man's law, natural law, and then there is God's law, we are messing with all of them. And that's why we're seeing so much chaos. So when we have jets, and I talked about this too with Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Maria, Hurricane Jose, Hurricane Katia, and all the other things that happened during hurricane season, what I considered American Fukushima, they even equipped, what was it, AC-130s with chemical spraying equipment. Because what? The mosquitoes, I guess they migrated from some of the craziest things that happened in that time frame. My point is this: they've been spraying stuff forever. I mean, you look at what happened in 2015, 2016 with Florida and the Zika virus, right? What did they spray? Nailed. What did we end up hearing a few months after that? People being born with microencephaly, all kinds of different birth defects. So again, you have to ask yourself, what are they spraying? What does this do to the environment? What does this do to us? Let's get back into this article. It says that the idea behind the process known as geoengineering is to keep global warming under control, with the ideal solution still being a reduction in the emission of greenhouse gases. Why? Because to these people, they want to try to seem like they're the saviors of the planet. Your carbon footprint, your gas emissions, you need to stop what you're doing. You're destroying the planet. Let me hurry up and finish this so I can get into other stuff. These people are insane. That's what I mean by trying to micromanage our lives. However, suddenly stopping that spraying would have a devastating global impact on animals and plants, potentially even leading to extinction, according to the first study on the potential biological impacts of climate intervention. And before I get into this, I've actually talked about that. How what we're seeing now with Davos actually being snowed in, with what we're seeing with the East Coast actually getting hit with snow. With all these random fires and things that are being set in California, what we're seeing is the whiplash effect of all of these different geoengineering weather modification techniques, the post-weather modification world, because we're trying to fight the weather so much. Obviously, when it happens, to step back and fight back, it's going to whiplash, it's going to affect us, and that's what we see happening now. But continuing on, it says that, quote, rapid warming after stopping geoengineering would be a huge threat to the natural environment and biodiversity, said study co-author Alan Robeck of Rutgers University. Quote, if geoengineering would ever stop abruptly, it would be devastating, so you would have to be sure that it could be stopped gradually. And it is easy to think of a scenario that would prevent that. Rapid warming forced animals to move, but even if they could move fast enough, they might not be able to find places with enough food to survive, the study said. Quote, plants, of course, can't move reasonably at all. Some animals can move and some can't, Roebuck said. If stratospheric climate engineering is deployed but not sustained, its impacts on species and communities could be far worse than the damage averted. So basically that's what happens. They're trying to say, like this person says right here, wait a minute. If global warming doesn't exist, or it's a hoax, why are they spraying chemicals to stop it? And this is why I love you guys, because you have perfect explanations that I sometimes don't reach. You see what I'm saying? So these are, again, the epigenetic assaults that I'm talking about. This is just the environment. Like I said, them trying to weaponize it. What happens if this is their justification? They have to continue geoengineering. If they don't, well, would you like the other? Would you like the alternative? No. Right? So let's get into this Tamiflu outbreak. Apparently this happened whenever I took my break. Apparently there was an outbreak of this Tamiflu, and you guys know how we approach the flus, the flu vaccines, anything that has to do with epigenetics, and then basically trying to hurt our children. Apparently there was an outbreak where, another boy hallucinated. He began twitching and banging his head repeatedly. Let's take a listen.
Reported this month on children experiencing psychological side effects at times after taking the popular flu treatment Tamiflu.
A Rockwall County family told our Jason Allen it was one of those reports that answered questions about what was happening with their own 2-year-old son.
Stephen Wallen, about to turn 2, looks as calm as could be for someone in an ambulance after having seizures at home. But after doctors also diagnosed him with the flu this month and started him on treatment, Stephen's parents said their son changed almost immediately.
He was twitching all night the night that I stayed there.
When I walked in the room, I was greeted with him slapping me across the face and then continuously smacking his head into the pillow, saying, ouch, ouch, ouch. He was like he was grabbing something off his shirt. and then grabbing it off mine and ow, ow.
Stephen had been given an anti-seizure medication, which doctors warned his parents could cause rage. But he was also on the flu medication Tamiflu. This month, an Allen family told CBS 11 they're
reported this month.
So
on
I didn't get that
children
other part
experiencing
of the actual story. That's whenever, like I said, I actually came back, trying to understand what was going on with this situation. So apparently there's a Tamiflu outbreak. Let's read into this. Another Texas family is speaking out about what they believe are side effects from a popular flu treatment. And, you know, how frequent is it that we hear about people that get the flu shot and then they end up getting the flu just like that? You see, and it's weird things like that happen all the time. A Rockwell County family said their nearly 2-year-old son was twitching, hallucinating, and slamming his head in pain after taking Tamiflu this month. The odd reaction only stopped, they said, when they stopped giving him the prescribed doses of the drug. These people, they really do practice these types of things. They really do, like I said, assault second generations, third generations, and these types of things. You know, that's why you got to look at Big Pharma. That's why you got to understand how important these types of things are. What's going on. And how you have to fight this conformity, this mindset of where, you know, hey, maybe I should take these types of things. Maybe I shouldn't, you know, actually research what's happening to my kid, research what's happening to my environment, research what's happening to my life. I'm very skeptical of anything that has to do with pharmaceuticals. I don't really put them in my body. I feel like there's a lot of different ways to cleanse, but this is a baby. I'm not a parent yet. I don't really have these different types of insights. But the point I'm trying to make by looking at these types of things is we have to understand what they're doing to the next generation. Let's look at this real quick. How Florida lawmakers have introduced mandatory vaccinations for all school students. And this is something, again, that we look at in California with SB 277 and SB 279, mandatory vaccinations for children. And as well as daycare providers. And you should be entitled to your own medical freedom. Without it, like, there's no real discussion there. There's nothing else that I should really say. You should be entitled to your own medical freedom. But this is actually listed on our website. It's from your Newswire, and you guys can go read it there, as well as on my website. It says that Florida lawmakers have introduced a new bill that would require all public school students to be vaccinated or face expulsion from class. SB 1558, School Health Immunization, also known as the Women's Cancer Prevention Act, revises children immunizations requirements to include a vaccine for human papillomavirus, HPV. ABCActionNews.com reports, quote, "If we're not given the choice to make our own health care decisions, then what we are given the choice to do." Asked parent England Davis told ABC Action News she is ready to uproot her daughter from school if she's forced to get vaccinated for HPV. "If legislation passes, I won't be able to keep her in public school," said Davis. "I will not. I refuse. I will homeschool her. Public school students in Florida are all ready to get vaccinations for tetanus, mumps, and other communicable diseases. HPV causes 6 different types of cancers in both men and women," said Dr. Anna Giuliano, a cancer epidemiologist with Moffitt Cancer Center, Tampa. Quote, "The vaccine is very safe. The benefits far outweigh any of the side effects." Dr. Giuliano says vaccinating more young people will help eliminate cervical cancer, the most common disease caused by HPV. Quote, "In my lifetime, we would see in the state of Florida almost no new cases of cervical cancer." So I'm going to stop right there. We also saw this kind of happen too with last year with Rebecca Bordeaux, where she actually went to jail because she did not get her child vaccinated. They're really trying to push this, and actually in California as well too. We saw how people are getting asked right off the bat at school, does your child have these types of vaccinations? Does your child have their shots? There's no longer a discussion about these types of things. But people understand and are starting to read the hard problems, the hard issues that come with vaccines. Like, what's the problem there, why that's so bad. People don't want to have autistic children. People don't want to have, children that disappear overnight. They don't want to have to deal with these types of things. And there's another article too, I think that's on our website, where it talks about that, public school and ADHD, what they're doing to kids' minds, what they're doing to the next generation. That's why I want to call this segment the epigenetic assault. But right here, let's get into this, because this is some good news in response to this. And this is actually put out before the Florida mandatory vaccination declaration, SB 1559. Is it 1558? New division begins laying groundwork to ban mandatory vaccinations across the USA, or across the U.S. This is awesome. This is awesome. And now I don't want to sit up over here and pole jock Trump. We talked before, about how, he got JF Kennedy Jr. He said he was going to try to do something about vaccines. Good for him. Do something about vaccines. People are dying. Kids are being messed with. Kids are being shot up with stuff, and they're being chemically intoxicated. It's crazy. But continuing on right here, it says that President Trump has created a new division within Health and Human Services Service Office for Civil Rights with the express purpose of banning mandatory vaccines across the country and ensuring citizens have the right to choose their own health care, because we should be allowed to do that. With the establishment of Conscience and Religious Freedom Division on Thursday, Trump has laid, and this is last week, Trump has laid the groundwork to dismantle each and every vaccine mandate across the country. Big Pharma's chokehold on the nation's health has been released. If you don't think this new division at Health and Human Services is a big deal, it's time to think again. The Conscious and Religious Freedom Division gives many different groups a big tent under which to fight for our constitutional rights. Christians, libertarians, and as well as free thinkers, conscientious objectors as well, and people of other religious faiths have a common interest in fighting against Big Pharma's corrupt health establishment. Mainstream media are desperate to keep this news quiet. They don't want you to know that there are people in the government working to ensure citizens have a right to choose their own health care. Pharmaceutical companies provide mainstream media outlets with a huge percentage of their advertising revenue. Big pharmaceutical companies actually spend far more on advertising than research. We are talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Here's why this is a big deal, per Bolin report. The House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, is one of the key figures who got this project over the line. Do you think he is unaware of the draconian mandatory vaccine law in California, which took away religious and philosophical exemptions? This new division at AHS is a home run for all those who believe in liberty and health freedom. In a press release put out on Thursday by the Health and Human Service Office for Civil Rights, Director Roger Severino said, quote, "Law protecting religious freedom and conscience rights are just empty words on paper if they aren't enforced." And you guys can read more on our website. And I agree. What we really need to look at is how these people are trying to they want to dehumanize us. They want to depopulate us. They want to make us less than. They want to systematically learn how to disenfranchise us from our power. They want to make us passive. They want to make us slaves. They want to learn to turn us into useless eaters. That's the best way that I can describe it. That's how they suck our souls out. Because it is with little things like vaccines. If they can get the kids, they don't have to worry about the parents. They can wait for the parents to die off. This is why population control is so important. And there's been all kinds of different developments as well. With Facebook and their counter speech thing. Don't worry, we'll get to that as well. China and their super laser. Bank of America closing their check accounts. The push towards the cashless society and all kinds of other things as well. But in this segment alone, I wanted to talk about how they're systematically working to dumb us down, trying to put us in a state of passivity. You see, let's look at this, and this is something that we literally keep seeing pop up in the news. This concept of drugs being injected into your body via some kind of device. This is what they're trying to do. again, put us into a disassociative state to where we don't really think, to where we can't really tell what's real and what's not real. What is reality? To where they're trying to warp it. This is from Inverse by Peter Hess. I put it up January 24th. It says new tiny implanted pumps can inject drugs directly into the brain. It says scientists at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have developed a radical new way to treat neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's disease. And it sounds pretty freaking sci-fi. The procedures include implanting a thin probe connected to a tiny pump into a patient's brain that delivers precisely measured and targeted drugs to specific brain areas. While this brain implant pump is a long way off from being installed in human patients, it has shown promise in an initial study in laboratory animals treating Parkinson's-like symptoms in lab rats and monkeys. Now, the reason why I wanted to read this before I continue on is because we've heard about how they have the FDA has actually approved a smart pill where it basically, slowly injects you with different types of drugs. It's like a time release type of thing. And then, in the future too, they will have, frequencies or some kind of way to where you receive a certain type of frequency of love, of anxiety, of fear, of power, of whatever. But continuing on here, it says that the MIT researchers published their findings in a paper on Wednesday in the journal Science Translational Medicine. The main idea behind their device, called a miniaturized neural drug delivery system, MINDS for short, is that it can precisely treat specific clusters of neurons without causing side effects. This improves upon previous methods that introduce drugs into the cerebral spinal fluid, which can also cause off-target effects. We've talked about how they're trying to create mini brains, how they're trying to create all kinds of different states of reality. They want to induce us into these types of things. So they're trying to use virtual reality to simulate death. They're trying to put different tubes in our brain. They're trying to put different implants in there as well. This is what I mean by the epigenetic assault. This is what I mean by transhumanism. Why they're messing with us. What happens to society whenever they just see us as some science experiment that they can mess with. I mean, Mike Adams of Natural News, the health ranger, he says that the flu vaccine is causing the flu outbreak. What a crazy surprise! What a crazy thought! Because how many times have we heard that people get the shot, and then boom, they catch the flu. Oh, but you have to be given a smaller dosage of the flu so that it's okay. Right. So one of the more astounding things that we actually heard this week, that I think a lot of people understand the deeper implications that can read in between the lines of these types of things, are that the Chinese scientists have just cloned a monkey. So while they are literally doing all these different types of things to the human body, changing us to all different types of beast men, transhumans, gender, whatever, LGBTQ546, whatever they want to name us, the Chinese are cloning monkeys. And we've actually talked about how they're cloning people as well. We're cloning people. We did like a whole few episodes on it for a while there. We went pretty deep into cloning. But this is how they're telling you these things. That it's okay to clone people. That it's okay to do these types of things. They're cloning people. That's really what I'm trying to get across by talking about these monkeys right here. But continuing on, this is from Singularity Hub. It's by Vanessa Bates Ramirez. Put it up January 24th. It says, Chinese scientists just cloned a monkey. Here are the details. And I asked the question, they've made human clones that are walking around right now. I cannot stress that enough. These days you have to ask the question of whether or not it is a organic robotoid, as talked about by Peter Beater, or whether or not it's an actual genetic clone, a robotic clone, or a biological clone. But continuing on, it says that in 1996, Dog the sheep became the first mammal to be cloned from a somatic cell. 20 years later, scientists have succeeded in using the same technique on primates, as detailed in a study published today in the journal Cell. Two long-tailed macaque monkeys were born at the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Neuroscience in Shanghai. How are the monkeys cloned? Zhongzong and Huahua, named after the Chinese Zhonghua, which means Chinese nation or people, were made by somatic cell neurotransfer, SCNT. In this technique, scientists take the nucleus of a healthy, unfertilized egg, then replace it in the nucleus of a somatic cell, any cell other than a reproductive cell. The resulting embryo is then implanted into a surrogate, and the surrogate gives birth to a clone of whatever donated the nucleus, and then the monkeys were cloned using the fetal connective tissue called fibroblasts. And normal reproduction, when a sperm fertilizes an egg, the resulting embryo has a set of chromosomes from the mother and a set from the father. In SCNT, the egg cell set of chromosomes is removed and the somatic cell nucleus takes place already and has 2 complete sets of chromosomes. Cloning can also be achieved by using the technique called embryo splitting, which is the way the twins or triplets occur naturally inside a womb. So basically what they're saying is they're making babies. They're making monkeys. They're making monkeys. And that's probably how they see us, as monkeys, as ungoloids, as mongrels, as useless eaters, as just humans, goyim, as the Khazarian Jews, as the fake Jews call us. You see, they see us as beasts. The Satanists, they also see us as beasts as well. That we're nothing but animals. That we have an animalistic nature. You've really got to learn how to read in between these types of lines, what they're really trying to tell you. It's not about just the monkeys. Oh, look, the monkeys. They got cloned. Where are the humans? Where are the humanoids? Where are the genetically modified soldiers? Where are the superhumans that Vladimir Putin speaks about? These are the times that we're living in. This is the world that we're living. It's not a joke. That's what I mean by the epigenetic assault. They're trying to say, you know what? Right now, as humans, you're a little bit flawed. You don't look so hot. Maybe you should let us take over. Maybe you should just let us modify your genes. Maybe you should just let us add a little bit here, add a little bit there. Make you a little bit more intelligent when they actually make you more dumb. They make you more servile. Follow these tests. Hop over this line, do these types of things, follow these orders. They give you intelligence, but at what cost? Again, looking at the trade-off with this information, everything that we have at our disposal. Yes, we have this information, but what wisdom are we pulling from it? That's the deeper question. That's what we really have to start asking. Yes, it's wonderful. It's strange that these monkeys are being made. But what does that mean for life? This is synthetic biology. This is whenever we reach that stage to where people don't value life as much as it should be. To where they just see their life as just another experience, another clip, another flick, as defined by Facebook earlier this week. You see. And that's why we've got to understand the deeper truths of these things. What does this really mean? So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of the more the other aspects of the social engineering, the economic and technical parts of it. You know, Theresa May's misinformation army. You know, why, if we go towards automation, why that's basically putting humanity on life support. You know, Amazon launching their first automated grocery store. Yeah, you know, they have that in Shanghai as well. I forget what it's called, but it's a little moving cantina that just delivers food. It seems great on the top, but what about the people who don't have a phone? Like I said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about this and more. This is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom. Thank you for tuning in to the Season 6 debut. I'll talk to you real soon. Stay tuned. And we are back again. That's right. Back again, my friends, back again. And you know what I'm really going to try to do is start bringing some of the friends on. Clearly I have a lot of friends, but I really want to start, using this platform. You guys can hear me talk about these things all day and try to put the pieces together, but I think a lot more people understand things in a better way when we actually have discussions on them. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. So check this out. Facebook's been in the news a lot lately. People are getting fed up with it, no doubt. Because who wants to be censored all the time? Who wants to be governed, watched, manipulated, controlled? Who wants that? And people ask me all the time, Freedom, why are you still on Facebook, man? Get off. Get off, get off, get off. I still need to reach people there. I still need to operate there. If I get off, they win. We can't stop growing in the face of this adversity. And even if so, we've still got to reach people. The Underground Resistance Network, basically our our Facebook family over there, they got taken down from 150,000 likes. And we don't know why, but we have to rebuild. Because that's what it is. That's the great contest. That's why we're fighting. That's why we're doing these things. We want to help. But so does Theresa May. Right here. Your Newswire. And this is by Sean. It says that the UK government launches the Misinformation Army to fight alternative media. That's me. Fake news, censorship, that's what they say. So this is what we get. This is what happens whenever people say, hey, you're controlled opposition. Yeah, I control myself. I'm not an army. I'm an army of one, and I would like to have your guys' help. Sometimes I don't. I have to, fight off some of the people in this group thing that we're doing. But don't worry. The UK is launching their own misinformation army. Let's get into this. It says that the UK government has launched a misinformation unit funded by British taxpayers tasked with countering alternative media online. According to a spokesperson for Theresa May, the, quote, dedicated national security communications unit will be charged with, quote, combating disinformation online, including news and information that competes with the government narrative. Quote, we are living in an era of fake news and competing narratives, the spokesman said. So what they're basically saying is they don't want you to they don't want you to think. Look, you're gonna listen to what the government wants you to know. It doesn't matter if you don't listen to CNN or Fox. CNN is fake news, and then you got faux news. It doesn't matter if you don't listen to them. We're gonna tell you what to think, okay? If you get on the internet, we're gonna tell you what to think. This is why being in a state of constant hypervigilance and being aware of what these people are trying to do, this is the Techno-Sorcery, the deeper levels of it. Why they're trying to do that. This is the spirit of technology. Why I keep trying to highlight they are using these tools of enslavement. We are trying to use them as tools of enlightenment. I'm not all up on Instagram Live trying to show you my face and have a good time. Let's have a good chat. We need to set up more questions and answers, where we have these kinds of interactions. But that's not the entirety of the page. That's not the function of these things. Everything you guys see and hear from the operation is meant to inform you. But don't worry. Theresa May will put an end to that. Continuing on, it says that BBC News reports a committee of MPs is currently carrying out an inquiry into, quote, the growing phenomena that has been demeaned information from Facebook and Twitter, including on Russian activity during the EU referendum. Downing Street told political reporters, quote, the government will respond with more and better use of national security communications to tackle the interconnected complex challenges. Quote, we will build on existing capabilities by creating a dedicated national security communications unit. This will be tasked with combating disinformation by state actors and others. It will more systematically deter our adversaries and help us deliver our national security priorities. End quote. Last month on the BBC, they launched a new scheme to help young people identify real news and filter out fake or false information. This is why you have people saying things like alternative facts, fake news, misinformation, disinformation. I feel like with it all being understood, a lot of people should be able to understand what's going on. People should be able to research what's going on. They should be able to think for themselves. Whenever you have people, state-sponsored outlets nonetheless, telling you what to think, how to feel, how to act, what's going on, do you really have a picture? Because you can hear that there's racism and everything else going on in the world, but do you see it? And it might not be where I'm at. I don't see the racism. I actually, talk to a lot of people. You see. But the mainstream media would have you thinking, oh, well, everything's going to hell. Don't step out your window. And this is why I also have a hard time, trying to balance, actually informative news versus what would seem fear-mongering and chaotic. Things that people can address and fix. You see. But looking at all that is a whole nother thing. Trying to break it down. That's what these people are working on. The same way they have some kind of weird formula for converting what a sandwich price, or the sandwich, carbon emission to gas. They have these kinds of formulas. Who knows? And that's what I can't say enough. I'm no longer fighting against those misinformation armies, those trolls, those agents. I'm no longer fighting against them. I mean, they're definitely there for sure. It's not just them, but it's also AI. It's also algorithms. It's also everything. And look at this right here. 1984, Facebook, Google, Twitter announces counter-speech psyop to keep public ignorant and docile. You guys can go look this up on our website. I put it up January 22nd. It says, if you're a radical or search for extremist content online, the biggest social networks and internet companies on earth will soon be converting you into a docile moderate, or at least try. Facebook, Google, and Twitter have been screening and filtering extremist content for years, but Wednesday, the gatekeepers of the internet confirmed to Congress that they are accelerating their efforts and will target users who may be exposed to extremist content, redirecting them instead to a positive, moderate post. You're only going to think good thoughts. There's nothing bad going on. There's nothing going on. There's no adversity. Everything is awesome. Everything is perfect. Don't you know? Don't tell people these things. When you think about it, this gets to the deeper level too of what we talked about a few weeks ago with China's social credit system and things like the citizen threat ranking, and stuff basically out of Black Mirror, to where your social standard, your digital profile, basically dictates how not only your influence, but your threat, your potentiality. And this is all some stuff that sounds like it's out of Minority Report, but this is where we're moving into. This is the future. This is the spirit of technology. Technology needs to understand. You know what? Let me get this out of the way. Technology needs to understand humanity. It needs to understand life, because it does not have one. Technology does not want to debate. It doesn't want to discuss. It doesn't want to have really good understanding. That's what I'm trying to say. The spirit of technology, the techno-sorcery aspect of it, is them harvesting our energy. These little devices, these black devices, these things that we pour our soul and essence into, they keep consuming us, and they throw up different roadblocks, and they see, well, what happens if they can't say this? Will they work around it? They're trying to turn us into them. They're trying to give us the mind of them. I don't know if it's Don. It's not Don Juan Leonte. No. Don Juan Castanedos. We talked about this before, how they're basically trying to give us the mind of the predator. When we're talking with technology, when we're engaging with technology, we have to understand the again, deeper spiritual implications of it. I want to get Marty over here from the Underground Resistance Network to talk to you about basically this discussion we had with the etymology of technology, of sorcery, and these things. Why, when we look at what it means to communicate in this way, It has a spiritual level to it. It was really, really deep, really, really good. But what I'm trying to say is we're giving our essence over to these things that do not operate without it. The only way these people have our power is because we give it to them every single day. That's why they have your face through Snapchat. That's why they have your face through any of these types of apps that we've used. Don't give it more power than it already has. Don't give it more of your thumbprint. People talk about the mark of the beast in the cashless society. Well, it's already here. But you've got to learn to navigate your way through it, and you've got to go through it. You can't shy away from it. That's why Bank of America closed their checking account function. I know USAA actually closed some of their checking account functions as well. They're trying to push us towards this cashless society. Other places are cutting out, the ability to do cryptocurrency trading with your bank account. This is the cashless society. This is the pool of technology. This is the spirit of technology. It only wants more. It wants you to abandon the physical world so that you can be more a part of this, a part of the digital realm, where you can be free here, right? This is what they tell you, that it has endless freedom. But what is the cost? What do you give up? Let me see. Let's get into let's look at some other stuff real quick. This automated cashierless grocery store. These guys are just standing here. And I think they're security. I'm not sure. They just have like shirts, and they're just grinning, because they literally don't have to do anything. What are they there for? Yes, great. Cashierless store. Pay for everything via your hand phone. Again, the cashless society. We hear the Jack in the Box CEO also saying, well, it just makes more sense to replace cashiers with kiosks. We already know that McDonald's is doing it. They're doing it. The decision has been made. It is being executed. As I said before, the machines do not want to have debates. They don't want to discuss things. They're executing a program. And the people that work for these machines, who are deploying these machines, they are giving us the machine mind. The machine attitude. The machine destiny, to where we consume. We don't know why we're consuming. We don't know why we're doing. We're just doing it. It's great, though. It's awesome. Just like Theresa May and their National Security Communications Unit, they're going to go out there and delete anything that has an opposing view. Jeff Bezos of the Washington Post and of Amazon actually said, he said this today. Let me see if I could look this up in the meantime. He said this today. You are lucky to have a job. To his his Washington Post employees. He's like, you guys are lucky to have a job. I don't know the direct quote. Let's see if I could try to find it. Right. I'll let you guys look this up. Or see me looking this up. Washington Post union told to be grateful for Jeff Bezos. Washington Post staffers fighting for better wages told to sit down, shut up. Yeah, basically. He told his people, you're lucky to have a job. This coming from the man who's over here creating this cashierless store. That's why he's telling people these things. You're lucky to be working. And again, your working goes into this cashless society as well, this social credit system. That's why I'm like, what are these guys doing? What are they there for? Are they security? Right? And they're going to open up more of these things. That's why automation, like I said before at the start of the show, is important. We're talking about putting the planet on life support. This can be something great, or it can be something that's devastating. Again, the socioeconomic reformation. What does this mean for jobs? What does this mean for people? What does this mean for humanity? Who's growing that food? Monsanto? Bayer? Don't get me started. Right here. Facebook recently came out saying that social media is potentially bad for democracy because of Russia. This Russiagate stuff is really getting people Twitter-pated. It's got them all in a tizzy because they can't control the narrative. They can't control what people are thinking. They can't control the outcomes. It's not Trump. It's the fact that, like I keep saying, we're using their tools of enslavement as tools of enlightenment. Right here, Apple CEO Tim Cook says, keep your kids off of as well. They're saying these things because they're trying to control your mind. They're trying to condition you. They want a certain outcome. Again, these people working not only for this dark vibrational energy. That's again the techno-sorcery aspect of it. You got to think. There's evil people that are out there using these things. We've played the clip where Sean Parker of Facebook, one of the founders, said, you know what, we know we're giving your brain a dopamine hit with this social media feedback loop, and we went ahead and did it anyway. They're coming out now saying this stuff is bad because they know not only is it again a tool of enslavement that we're using for a tool of enlightenment, it's the ultimate social engineering. They might as well throw social engineering potentially bad for democracy, or you know, interpersonal engineering potentially bad for democracy, however you want to call it. And it's crazy because when you start talking about these types of things, people don't understand the deeper implications of what's actually going on. And so now what we basically see happening is how they're blaming everything on Russia. Oh, it's the Red Scare. Oh, it's the Russians. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. You see. Let me get into this article. It's from Sign of the Times. It says Facebook, social media potentially bad for democracy because Russia. And before I actually do, I have to kind of underline something because basically what we're talking about is how they're saying we're going to increase more censorship. Last year, we actually saw Mark Zuckerberg meeting with the Chinese president Xi Jinping, saying how, yes, you know, we will figure out a way to implement more censorship. And then we also hear about how the Chinese, the communist Chinese, are going through all kinds of different kinds of stuff over there. It's crazy, the crackdown. But continuing on, this article says Facebook Inc. warned on Monday that it could offer no assurance that social media was on balance good for democracy, but the company said it was trying what it could to stop alleged meddling in elections by Russia or anyone else. The sharing of false or misleading headlines on social media has become a global issue after accusations that Russia tried to influence votes in the United States, Britain, and France. Moscow denies the allegations. Facebook, the largest social media network with more than 2 billion users, addressed social media's role in democracy in blog posts from a Harvard University professor, Cass Sunstein. Sounds very Jewish. Sunstein. Still sounds Jewish. From an employee working on the subject. Quote, I wish I could guarantee that the positives are destined to outweigh the negatives, but I can't. Samij Chakrabarti, a Facebook product manager, wrote in his post, Facebook, as he added, has a moral duty to understand how these technologies are being used and what can be done to make communities like Facebook as representative, civil, and trustworthy as possible. Contrite Facebook executives were already fanning out across Europe this week to address the company's slow response to abuse on its platforms, such as hate speech and foreign influence campaigns. So what they're really saying is we control the narrative of what globalization looks like. We should not allow people to have a global response to the tyranny that's coming over, to the conformity that these people are trying to offer. That's the problem. As you literally see us growing, people growing, conscious people who are really trying to actually make a difference in the world, you see these people responding by saying, you know what, can't have that. Can't have them coming together, can't have them, building schools, can't have them writing books, can't have them having conversations, can't have them having convos, can't have them making their own money outside of the system, can't have them, trying to figure out ways to hit us in our pockets, can't have them, doing any of this. They're learning that the vaccines are harmful. They're learning that, what we're spraying on them. They're learning about all this stuff. So we have to shut it down. We have to shut it down. That is their response. That is their response. Is to try to tell people how, not only how to live, but what to think. And that's why having a show like this where we can actually discuss these problems and these things that are going on is so crucial. You see. Let's look at this. Congress passing H.R. 4760. This is something that I think, again, we're missing out on. We get caught up in so much other stuff, we don't really understand the depths of what's happening. Right here, Congress quietly pushing bill to require national biometric ID for all citizens, or for all Americans. And this is the mark of the beast. There's no other way to say it. This is the mark of the beast. These people are basically trying to push us into this system as hard as they can. 2018 was prophesied by these people. And I don't want to say prophesied. This was planned. This is an agenda. This is what these people are trying to roll out. So we see Trump over here doing all these things, making America great again, right? But what is happening with this? So I'm not hearing anybody talk about any of these types of things. Like I said, the post-weather modification world, what's actually going on with our kids? Why is this stuff affecting us? What is this? H.R. 4760, Securing America's Future Act of 2018, is a massive giveaway to the police state, which will use a national ID to track Americans. Earlier this month, Representative Bob Goodlatte, a Republican from Virginia, introduced H.R. 4760, Securing America's Future Act of 2018, a sweeping bill that entails everything from education and the workforce to homeland security to the military. Also tucked away in this 400-page behemoth of a bill are the details of a new biometric national ID card that could soon be required for everyone. Not surprisingly, there is almost no media coverage on this legislation. H.R. 4760 establishes a mandatory national identification system that requires all Americans to carry a government-approved ID containing biometric features. Without this card, according to the legislation, you will not be able to work in this country. The legislation was drafted under the auspices of providing a legislative solution for the current beneficiaries of the DACA program, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival. So basically, two-handed response right there. Well, if you want the people to come in from DACA, if you want the dreamers to come in, they have to get this new form of ID, which will then force everybody else to get an ID of this type, or just get an upgraded version of your license, of your driver's license. This type of stuff is nuts. But continuing on, it says, however, as Ron Paul points out, this bill would give DACA recipients a 3-year renewable legal status while forcing a biometric national ID card on virtually everyone else. That's right. The statists want to control you, Ron Paul said. That's the only thing that you can really say. This is what these people are trying to do by drugging the population, by getting us involved in things like fighting over race, fighting over religion, fighting over these foolish things, choosing to turn off. They can slowly start rolling these things out where we don't actually think about, well, hey, what does this mean for me? When we don't pay attention to the advances of our adversaries, they only get stronger. If we don't really see what's going on, what's happening, and how these people are trying to systematically disenfranchise us from our power, we lose. The human loses. Imagine that. A national biometric ID for all citizens. Your information. It's got your fingerprint somewhere. It's got a chip so they always know where you are. If you have it in your wallet or something. That's it. You see, and it's tied to your Fed book. It's got all the information. It's got your iris, you see. And this isn't the precise thing, but that's how this technocracy works. That's how these people work. They need to know everything about you because it's hollow. It's dead inside. It's not real. You see, let's look at this real quick. The automation, self-driving cars will leave a third of population jobless. This is the socio-economic reformation, the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, sure, bring the cars. What will that do for jobs? What will that do for people? How will they provide work? This is why you guys hear me talk about the concept of renaissance over revolution. Revolution is more politically inspired, right? I think truly that we need to start looking at things in a creative light. The builders of the future, they won't be, they're not going to be brick and mortar people. They will have a purpose there, no doubt. We're in the hybrid age, so there are things that have to, transition into there. But the builders of the future will be the people who are creative and who can see these problems and try to offer solutions to this ever increasing problematic world that we find ourselves living in. That's what success is how do we get to the next step? This, driverless cars, self-driving cars, this is a band-aid. What is that going to do to the economy, though? It's going to really, really destabilize a lot of things, and this is going to happen on so many levels. It's going to start with cars, but where does it end? How do you make yourself more valuable? But with all this information, how can you retain the wisdom? How can you seek deeper understanding things if you're simply trying to understand how the world works? The world will change. That's what we see happening right now. The world is going to change. That's basically all I'm here to tell you, is that the world will continue to change, and that's what we're experiencing right now. They make it seem chaotic, and that's how these people work. They play with one hand, and then on the other, they have all these other things happening. Pay attention to Donald Trump the same way we did with Barack Obama. But don't look at all these other things. Don't look at the behind the scenes of what's really going on. You see, they say that Donald Trump is at Davos talking about America first. You have Kissinger on your board, like in your cabinet. Like you did that right off the bat. You just got all kinds of globalists, New World Order puppets, Zionist Jews right off the bat, and you were just like, "Yep, they're in my council." Oh, but he's at Davos now. Oh man, it's funny, it really is. But right here, billionaire stuck. Davos disrupted by massive snowfall, avalanche alerts. The hypocrite globalists. They fly to Davos to talk about climate change summit. With thousands of private jets. That's how these people work. Talk about climate change. The same way Leonardo DiCaprio did, and the same way Barack Obama did. Oh, but they're going to have all their jets, and they're going to have all these different things, and have massive parties, etc., but condemn your activity here. You see, that's how these people work. They're some slick magicians, I'll tell you that. Again, the techno-sorcery aspect of it. Because they understand that right now, because of the implications and the power, the pull, the influence that social media, social engineering, has, you can tell people to do things on social media, they'll do it, and they'll negate their real life simply because of the fame and the I don't want to say the virtue signaling, but the social media feedback loop, the dopamine hit that you get from social media. And I'm sure we all have it to some degree. This is what I mean by, keeping your flesh in check, making sure your ego's in check. Because it'll trip doing all of this stuff. That's for sure. But that's the intention, and that's why we have to use these tools of enslavement for tools of enlightenment to help people. But let's get into this. This is from SHTF Plan by Max Lavo. It says, either the globalist elite and climate alarmists think we are too stupid to understand this bold hypocrisy, or they think they are above the rules they impose on other. It's actually probably both. The globalist Davos summit opened with a speech from Narendra Modi in which he identified climate change as the #1 threat to civilization and called for more wealth transfers from rich countries in order to help poorer nations. Quote, adopt appropriate technologies for reducing climate emissions. Opposition to globalism is another major threat to the elites, the Indian Prime Minister warned in his speech. This closely follows the heels on research published on the eve of the globalist get-together, which revealed that the CEOs in Western Europe see populism as the biggest threat to their profits. Yet all of these globalists are also hypocrites. More than 1,000 private jet flights have been delivering globalist elites to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where attendees are discussing, among other topics important to the New World Order, the major threats of the junk science, climate change. And this is, I don't want to say it's junk science because, again, this is why we have to look at what's happening around us, what's happening to the exterior world. They have us so focused on the digital world, what they can get us triggered by in cyberspace, that we don't see what's happening in the real world. But this is why we're asking the questions of the post-weather modification world. What happens when we start looking at what happens after geoengineering, after weather modification, after cloud seeding, and after all of these different types of things? You see. But that's what they're talking about. That's what we need to talk about. And the globalist elite, again, they're trying to say that they want to do this to be the saviors of the planet. This is that world government. This is the New World Order. This is what these people are trying to do by saying that they want to try to transfer the wealth from richer nations to poorer nations. Again, this is more of the global communism that we see forming, to where it's the wealth transfer, where they lower a first world status country to a third world status country, or they at least bring everybody to a second world status country. But even then, you've got to share resources because they're harvesting resources. You have to abide by rules. You have to do all these different things. We're living in a world with failing infrastructures. How many places around the world have bad water, have bad air? We talked briefly about how there's a organization in California that's basically talking about doing an air test because they're aware of the aluminum that's in the air. We're talking about places like Flint that still have bad water. There's counties all over the entire country that are affected by this type of stuff. We're talking about how they're trying to separate us from the Schumann resonance, from the natural Earth frequency. But this is why they want to get us put into this rhythm, what they create, this world, this distorted world. You see. That's why they're trying to control consciousness and manufacture opinions, condemn human behavior, and make humans feel as if they're obsolete. They want to smother the soul. But again, this is the rise of the cryptocracy and the technocracy. How they're trying to warp reality by pushing us into this technotronic-driven world. This is why we have to combat conformity. This is why we have to realize the spirit of technology and understand the techno-sorcery that these people are trying to commit.
However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I kind of jumped all over the place, with the premiere episode and all, but there's a lot of different things to look at. We are heading into interesting times. We are in the eye of the storm, and if you can't tell, the change is right around the corner, and that we are meant to be the agents of change and help make some of these things happen. We have to understand the times that we're moving in. I cannot stress that enough. But however, like I said, that's all I really have for you guys. Make sure you're checking out the website. We got it back. We're working on the backup. factionsofreedom.jimdo.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. That way you get all the updates. And stay tuned for our second show the following Sunday, as well as this Sunday with the follow-up episode from the minicast with friends that we did with Zach. All kinds of different developments, guys. Updates all the time, and we are going to keep this fight going. And remember, guys, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.